During their third week of protests, Occupy Bangor was asked by the city to get an event permit, something they refused to do, saying they're not an event, but rather an assembly of people who represent free speech. Carriages of Acadia operates on about 11 teams of horses, including Pat and Mike here. The new Living Learning Center at Husson University will have 5 floors. The first floor will be for classrooms, and the other 4 will be dedicated to student housing. Construction on this building is expected to be done August of next year. Millions of Americans come to the state of Maine each year to visit Acadia National Park on Mount Desert Island. The park is home to several tourist attractions, including Wildwood Stables, where the family-owned business Carriages of Acadia offers horse-drawn wagon tours for the public. President of Carriages of Acadia, Michael Carpenter, was approved by the park back in 2008 to run the carriage rides. The past 3 years has been a learning experience for him, but he enjoys sharing his passion for horses with others.
2 of my favorite things in the world are talk to people and play with my horses. And so this combines the 2 of them, and I only get to do it on short periods of time like the weekends, but I really look forward to it. It's a lot of fun.
Reservations for the summer start to pour into Carpenter's office as early as March. During their busiest day this summer, Carriages of Acadia took over 236 guests out onto the carriage roads, and over the past 3 years, they have serviced over 60,000 people, more than any other concessionaire before them. Carriages of Acadia operates on about 11 teams of horses, including Pat and Mike here. Each team is out on the trail for about 5 hours a day, and the National Park Service couldn't be happier with the health and care of each and every one. Concession specialist for the National Park Service, Liz Weston, has seen nothing but positives since Carpenter was approved for his 10-year contract to run the carriage rides.
They do an excellent job here, and I've seen so many good comments about how well they take care of their animals, their stock, the horses.
This past summer was Brandon Schaefer's first at Carriages of Acadia. The carriage driver from Ohio enjoys meeting people from all walks of life who choose to spend an hour or 2 of their vacations on his wagon.
Working with the horses is nice, but still, you meet people from all over the country, all over the world. You get to talk to them for at least an hour, so it's a good time. I like it.
Schaefer spends much of the tour sharing facts about Acadia and explaining the history about the carriage roads.
John D. Rockefeller Jr. was the guy, one of the major names in the creation of the park here. He built 45 miles of carriage roads and 16 granite bridges here in the park. John
and Terry Telfair of Auburn, Massachusetts, brought their grandkids, Cora and Carter, on one of Schaefer's tours. This was the family's 3rd time back to Wildwoods, and neither the views nor the driver disappointed.
The beauty of the park, they're very professional here, the drivers, and I thought our driver today was very informative, very, very good.
Carpenter and his staff receive several comments just like these each day. Most everyone who visits Wildwood Stables leaves with a new appreciation for the park and a smile on their face.
We meet an awful lot of nice people. They have a fun time. It's very relaxing.
Carpenter tells everyone on his rides that it should be the most relaxing hour or 2 they spend the whole summer. But for some, it could be a little too relaxing. Robert Nesbitt, NESCOM Connection.
This is the CBS Evening News with Russ Mitchell.
Good evening. Russ is off tonight. I'm Robert Nesbitt. With less than 72 hours to go before the federal government potentially runs out of money to pay its bills, there is now word that talks to cut a deal have gone to a new level. This after the Senate last night shot down a Republican proposal from the House, and the House today said no to a Democratic plan from the Senate. Congressional correspondent Nancy Cordes is on Capitol Hill with the latest. Here's one measure of how cash-strapped the U.S. Treasury is. As of today, the Treasury has just $36 billion in cash on hand. That's well short of the $76 billion computer maker Apple had in the bank at the end of June. A lot of Americans are asking if a deal is not made in the next few days, who gets paid and who gets paid first. Cheryl Atkinson takes a look at the numbers and gives us a glimpse of what could happen. Ivy Stewart entered the foster care system at age 14. After 7 years in the system, she became what every foster child dreads, an aged-out youth.
And it's very hard because you do feel like the odds are against you at times. Because it's like, I've been through so much, but how can I overcome what I've been through?
With the odds stacked against her, she turned to the Harlem Dowling Westside Center, a family services program in Harlem committed to improving the lives of families in the community and providing support to children from broken families.
Like, I can always come back to them and ask them for any type of advice, and they'll always lead me down the right direction.
Like so many other nonprofit organizations, the executive director of Harlem Dowling, Dorothy Worrell, faces crippling budget cuts that limit the amount of resources available to children in crisis.
There was a period about a year ago, I dreaded opening my mail every day because every day it was another letter from some funder, some government agency saying you're being cut 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%. In the scheme of things, that may not seem like a lot, but when you're getting those cuts compounded year after year after year, that 1%, 2%, 3% adds up to millions of dollars.
As of July 1st, those that age out of the system who once received a check for $750 will now receive nothing. And Tuesday's debt day will also threaten the state's fragile budget for child welfare. Thousands of youth age out of the foster care system each year. Once they leave the system, their state and foster families are no longer required to give them assistance. Essentially, they are left to fend for themselves. Last year, about 30,000 youth aged out of the system, a 64% increase over the last decade. Research by Dr. Virginia Strand at Fordham University shows aged out youth struggle with surviving in a world they are unprepared for.
When they age out in that tract, what our data suggests is they become the populations in our juvenile system, later on in our prison systems, among our homeless population.
Ivy Stewart was able to avoid each of these issues due to a superhuman support system.
I knew that, like, with the great support, I can do anything. I felt like I was, Superman.
The 24-year-old currently holds down a full-time job, attends classes at Borough of Manhattan Community College, and lives on her own. But with a system that fails most who age out of foster care, her success story remains the exception. Robert Nesbitt, CBS News, New York. Overseas again, Britain's royals gathered today at a church in Edinburgh, Scotland, for another family wedding. This time it was the distinctly low-key marriage of Queen Elizabeth's granddaughter, Zara Phillips, daughter of Princess Anne and rugby star Mike Tyndall. By the way, those other newlyweds, William and Kate, were among the guests. And formal wear was also in order today at the San Francisco Zoo. After graduating from the zoo's fish school, where they learned to swim and eat fish, 5 penguin chicks marched between lines of excited visitors back to their birthplace on the Penguin Island exhibit. And that is the CBS Evening News for tonight. Thanks for joining us this Saturday evening. I'm Robert Nesbitt, CBS News in New York. Good night.